Okay, so it's Saturday on the Homestead Farm, and today we're going to be installing a new section under the weed paper where most of the grass had died, but not all of it. We're broad forking right now. We're only using a pitchfork, and that's how you broad fork. There's daughter Grace, broad forking. And the reason we're doing this is to get aeration into the soil. So then we cover this with all this mulch and compost and anything else we're covering it with, it'll go into the heavy clay soil. But I will tell you, just from putting this weed fabric down over it for like 4 months, it has softened it up. It didn't kill all the grass, mainly under the white weed fabric. It did not kill all the grass, but we're going to remedy that. I'll show you that. All right, so now continuing with the aeration, we're going to do this a little differently today. We do no-till, but today we're going to have to do it a little differently. We're going to have to do no-till with a weed barrier under it, and we're going to use this as a weed barrier. It's masking tape. It's painter's masking tape. We're going to roll this out. It's just not tape. It's paper, masking paper. We're going to roll that down. It's biodegradable, but it's going to take a while because look at this. The grass, after like 5 months of being covered with white weed fabric, still is growing. This Bermuda grass is tough. So we're gonna have to cover it with some paper, and we don't have enough mulch to put a foot down. This is why we're doing this. We're only gonna get maybe 7 or 8 inches of mulch down. So we broad forked it, and we're watering it. We're wetting everything along the way. We're gonna have to wet the masking paper along the way too. And the main thing is to keep these weeds out. We don't want this Bermuda grass ever growing again, so we're going to cover it with paper, and then we have what we have readily available. All we have is a little bit of compost left and a little bit of wood chip left, so we're going to use what we have. But the problem is it's already the end of May, and it's going up. It's like 90 degrees almost every day here in North Carolina, so we got to get planting. I've got peppers ready to go. Our tomatoes and potatoes are in. They're doing great. But now we got to get other stuff going. We've got to get the winter squash going and the peppers going. I've started the peppers from seed, and they're about 5 inches tall in pots now, and they're ready to be planted. So we're going to plant them. They got to get planted. That's what's going to happen today. All right, so we were successfully able to get the first row of paper down, and we wet both sides, and we were able to flip it, and it didn't fall apart. And now we're mulching it, and we're putting, actually all we have for a covering is compost, pretty finished compost too. So we're using that, and we're putting it on top of the paper. So we wet the paper, we wet underneath the paper, we wet both sides of the paper. We're wetting everything just to keep the aeration going and keep the whole process going. So that's what's going on now, and pretty soon we'll have this section completed today. So we're getting everything wet down, every layer wet down. We want to keep the aeration going, and we're putting this paper, we're wetting it, and then we're flipping it. So let's flip it now. We've wet the ground underneath it. We have broad forked it, and now we're turning it around, and we will wet this side now. All right, not only are we broad forking with a pitchfork, we're gonna make some aeration holes in this paper too. So you don't want it puddling up and having no drainage. Just putting a few aeration holes in it. And again, the reason we're putting paper down is because we don't have a foot of mulch. We don't have a foot. All right, so we have just made a 12 by 30 bed here. It's just awesome. We just created this. We extended it from our other bed. And what we had to do is pull up the weed fabric. We put some paper down because we didn't have enough mulch to go 12 inches. We've gone all together 6 inches of compost and 2 inches of mulch. We've got about 8 inches here, maybe 9 inches altogether. But we've got paper rolls underneath here. So there's a whole roll of paper stuff. You see it in the earlier video. And the next step is for me to stake this out and use the furrow hoe and put some stakes down and put our soil in the furrows. All right, we're just finishing up this 12 by 30 bed that we created today. And I'm going to use my favorite tool, which is the furrow hoe. And what I've done is I put a string line down. You don't see the string anymore because you took it up. A string line, I made a straight line right here. And we're going to be planting the peppers in here. So I've started with the furrow hoe. I had a string line. I made it straight. It runs all the way down the full 30 feet. And then I took a shovel and I deepened it a little bit more because I needed it to be 8 inches deep. And the other thing is too, a little bit of wood chip is going to fall into the hole, and wood chip is going to tie up the nitrogen and the bacteria in the planting. So I have to amend it now with some fertilizer. I use a Spoma organic fertilizer. It's made out of chicken manure, and this will just balance things. I'll put a little bit more down too. But now Grace is going to fill in the hole and make it all the way filled to the top, which will be 8 inches. And then while she's doing that, I could even show you, go all the way to the end too. These are the babies. These are the Carmen sweet peppers. They're sweet frying peppers. They get red and long, about 8 inches long, and we fry them up and use them with our eggs in the morning, or we could have them on a salad too. And well, we're gonna plant one right now. So gently take it out. There's gonna be a little excess root. You could loosen it up a little bit. Look at that beautiful plant. I grew these from seeds. They take a long time to grow pepper plants. That's why I needed to get this done. I want to get these in the ground. And then let's get them in the ground. Get them in the ground. You don't bury them too deep. These are not tomatoes. These are peppers. And these are going to get spaced about a foot apart. We could do these about a foot apart, or even up to 18 inches apart. We've got a 30-foot bed here, and we've got 21 peppers, so we'll get them all in here. It's going to be more like a 1.5 feet apart. We'll plant them. Now this is great. This is the reward. Getting these babies in the ground. These are Carmens. We'll have to mark the date that we planted them. I don't know if it says it on the side. No, this one doesn't say it, but one of the other ones will say it. But I've been growing these a long time, about 2 months from seeds. Peppers take a long time to grow. So here's my tape measure. I'm going to put them 18 inches apart. So right here. All right, give them ample space. You could plant them closer, but I just want to get them all in one row. So you make sure you firm it in too a little bit. Firm it in. We're going to water them and fertilize them a little bit today. Peppers don't like a lot of fertilizer. They like phosphorus. But because there's fresh wood chips in here, we have to fertilize a little bit. This is garden soil. Planting right into garden soil. You can't plant in the wood chips the first year. They're too fresh. They're breaking down the microbes. The microbes are all joining together and robbing the soil of nitrogen. So we're making a furrow. This is kind of a cheat sheet. What we could have done is waited till next year and all the wood chips would have broken down. The microbes would have broken them down, but we're speeding the process up by making a furrow.